Companies ask me quite often, what is the average per square foot cost to rent office space in New York City? Kind of a tough answer. It would get the same response of, well, what's the average cost of an apartment in New York City? To better handle that, you have to understand New York City is broken down into sub-markets. For example, Hudson Yards, a world-changing event for the island of Manhattan, the largest commercial real estate development project in probably 100 years that's hit New York City. Rents there, $180, $150 a square foot, designed for a certain type of company, a certain type of individual. It has a presence, a city within a city. But let's take a walk. I change my soles every 2 months, pounding the streets of Manhattan. Tribeca, Nomad, Uptown, Midtown, Fifth Avenue, Soho, Wall Street. 20 years and $500 million of office space later, the Manhattan skyline keeps growing and I can't get enough of it. My name is Michael Kaufman. I'm a commercial real estate broker, and this is the Manhattan Office Space Vlog. There's the downtown market, which financially is a very aggressive market, meaning you can get some great deals down there. Geographically a little tougher to get to, but now with Brooklyn being a up and coming, already here, acting influence to Manhattan's workforce, that pricing structure could run you anywhere from $40 a foot to $65. Let's take a walk east. Empire State Building, Park Avenue, the Chrysler Building. Let's call it Midtown South. You're between Penn Station and Grand Central. Your rents are going to range anywhere from $40 a foot to $90 a foot. It's per building. What I'm trying to get at is that each building is its own commodity, and you have to understand pricing is based on need, supply, and demand. A building that has very little vacancy, yes, is going to get a higher rent. A building in a hot market, for example, the Nomad District, let's call it 28th, 29th, 27th Street, Broadway, is probably one of the hottest markets in New York right now. 5 years ago, rents were in the 30s and 40s. Now, 70s and 80s per square foot. This town operates on supply and demand and hype. But more importantly, how do you negotiate or how do you view each building and understand its structure? Well, let's start with the basics. Who owns the building? Is it owned by a family or a private individual that doesn't need to sell it for a number of years and has different ways of structuring deals, creativity? Or is it a corporate-owned building by a fund or a REIT and has strict guidelines and rules that they need to work within in order to structure a deal? This is very important. As every landlord has the mindset to rent space, you need to understand their boundaries. Do their boundaries work with you? Do they have the ability to be creative? Or flat out, they just can't meet our needs or we can't meet their pricing. Every building's a little different. That's why over 20 years, developing relationships with landlords and agents helps me navigate on behalf of my customer to better understand where we may be able to locate a space or a deal that will work for both parties. That's the key. You got to make a deal that works for both parties. So there's a thing called rent. Most people look at that and emphasize on face rent or dollars a square foot. Let's take, for example, Times Square. Probably 10 million square feet of office space, each building different pricing. Some, let's say, for example, $65 a square foot. And you'll have a client who'll say, well, that's too much, it's out of our budget. You can't look at just per square foot rent. What you have to look at is the whole net effective deal, the whole package. Let me break this down for you. You have your rent, $65 a square foot. However, you have a landlord that may give you 6 months or a year of free rent. That net effectively knocks that $65 down to approximately $58 a square foot. Now you'll have a landlord that will actually build out the space for you, spend their money creating your dream office space. You do not have to come out of pocket to build this. Net effectively, you've now lowered your number down to, let's call it $50 a square foot. Now let's break it to another piece. You sign a 10-year lease. Every year, there's a thing called inflation, or in New York, they use a thing called an annual escalation. Your rent will continue to grow. Some buildings go at 3%, some at 1.5%, some at 2%, some at 1%. Over a 10-year period, you would be surprised that a building that has cheaper per square foot rent is not always the best deal. You need to look at these things on a spreadsheet net effective basis. The other thing to consider with this when we're talking money is financials. Please understand, landlords tend to negotiate better or give you a better deal if you are able to supply them with financials, meaning a tax return, an audited statement from your accountant. And basically it's the ability you've proved that you can pay rent. You know how to make money, run a company, pay your bills through good times and bad. Very, very important. Companies don't understand when a landlord is going to ask you for 6 months free rent, you say, oh my God, that's $200,000. Let's look at the deal. The landlord is giving you a year's free rent. The landlord is going to build out that space for you. You're signing a 10-year lease. Ultimately, the landlord will not see income until their 3rd year of the lease. So by asking for 6 months security deposit, they're not out of line. They're overly exposed, but they're making a leap of faith for you. So what does it take to make a deal? The ultimate question. Well, let's talk to Matt Walden from Infinity Consulting Solutions.
But we had a goal. We wanted that open pit. We liked that big open collaborative space. And we were looking for the better part of a year, very close to a year. We wanted open windows. We wanted light.
Penn Station.
Penn Station proximity. When we narrowed that search down, I think we may have been into every building between here and Grand Central.
At least twice. Yeah.
When we found this space, we knew.
But here was the hurdle. I said, Matt, I know the space you want, but the lease doesn't come up for another year and your lease is expiring. It's got the right price. It's got the right location. It's got the right feel. It's all right, except we can't have it today. So, painstakingly, moving's a pain in the neck. And it's very expensive and very disruptive. No one likes to move. I don't like to move. However, I said, Matt, down the street, I have a space for 1 year that's very workable, very doable, but it'll get us to your dream space. Go home and think about it. So you and your partner?
Yeah. It's a very, very creative solution. Something my partner took a little while to digest, but you made that very clear. The dollars and cents made sense over a year, and we wanted the space. It was the space that we loved. It was the space we knew for the next 10 years could fuel our growth.
10 years.
The way that deal aligned and the way you aligned your properties with us, a lot of collaboration there, as we like to say here, but a lot of collaboration here to get us to this space and for us to grow. And this, as our headquarters, as our national headquarters, has really helped us flourish.
So one other key element, let's call it as the company's personality or who they are, and how landlords view you as a company. Remember, they're actually becoming your partner in a so to speak way. If they believe in what you do, or they understand it, or maybe they don't understand it but are intrigued by it, landlords want to rent space to companies that they believe in, and vice versa. Tenants want to be in buildings where their landlords appreciate what they do. Telling your story to a landlord or having your agent explain who you are when you submit an offer, or more importantly, be able to explain who you are to a landlord and agent is critical. These people are going to have 5 and 10 year commitments with you. They want to understand what you do, who you are. You never know. They may even hand you off business, or you may become a client of theirs. They may become a client of yours. But telling your story, websites, items, press, all very helpful to help your broker negotiate a great deal for you, or at least to explain the reason why you're looking for a type of deal. Stories tell the truth. Not telling information usually makes people skeptical that you're hiding something. So the worst thing you could do is withhold information, withhold financials. Don't worry, they don't post this information on the internet. They just want to look at it to make sure that you're going to be able to pay them. Very much like if you were going to accept a client, you want to make sure your client's going to pay you. So it's just business, and the idea is to do it successfully together. The New York City office market is as crazy as this town, but I'm there to help. So if you have any questions, comments, or maybe I can help you find your newest space, hit me up. Always happy to help. Thanks. See you next time.